October 11th, 1969, Presidio Heights, San Francisco. A patrol car turns onto Jackson Street. The headlights catch a man walking east. Heavy set, crew cut, thick black-framed glasses. One block behind him, a taxi driver named Paul Stein is dead in the front seat of his own cab. The officers do not stop him. 57 years later, there are 3 separate accounts of what happened in the next 90 seconds. None of them agree. It started 10 months earlier on a rural road outside Benicia. December 20th, 1968. David Faraday, 17. Betty Lou Jensen, 16. Both shot on Lake Herman Road. Both killed. July 4th, 1969. A parking lot at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo. Darlene Farron, 22, pronounced dead at Kaiser Foundation Hospital. Michael Mageau, 19, survived. September 27th, Lake Berryessa, Napa County. Cecilia Shepard, 22, died 2 days after the attack. Brian Calvin Hartnell, 20, survived 8 stab wounds to the back. And then Paul Stein, 29, a cab driver in San Francisco. 5 dead, 2 survivors. He would later claim 37.
Now count the map. Benicia, Vallejo, Napa County, San Francisco. 4 crime scenes and 4 separate police agencies, each holding its own file, its own evidence, its own detectives. In 1969, there was no shared database between them. There was a telephone. 3 teenagers watched it happen from a window across the street. They saw the man wipe down the cab. They saw him cut a piece from Stein's shirt. They saw him walk away, unhurried. They called the police. And the description that went out over the radio was wrong. Accounts say the broadcast identified the suspect as a black man. So the officers responding were looking for the wrong person entirely. Officer Armand Pellicetti later said he first moved the teenagers back toward their house, checked the cab, confirmed Stein was dead, then went back and retook the description. Only then was he told the suspect was white. He ran to his car to radio the correction. By then, Officer Don Folk had already passed a man on Jackson Street. Here is where the record splits. Folk said, in a police memorandum written weeks later, and for the rest of his life, that they did not stop and speak to the man. The killer said they did. In a letter that November, he claimed the officers called him over, asked if he'd seen anything, and that he sent them chasing an armed man who never existed. Folk's partner that night, Eric Zelms, told his wife they stopped. Zelms was killed by an armed burglar a few months later. He never gave a statement of his own. In 2018, police in California identified the Golden State Killer using genetic genealogy. Everyone asked the same question about the Zodiac. There is a reason the answer is no. The Zodiac left no blood and no semen at any scene. 3 of the attacks were committed with a gun, 1 with a knife. There is no confirmed DNA from him at any crime scene at all. The closest thing investigators have is saliva, traces recovered from beneath the stamps he licked. In the early 2000s, San Francisco developed a partial profile from one of them. A partial profile can eliminate a person. It cannot name one. In 2002, Inspector Kelly Carroll told the San Francisco Chronicle that the department's prime suspect did not match the partial profile from authenticated Zodiac letters. His handwriting hadn't matched in 1972, neither had his fingerprints. He died in 1992, never charged. And there is the older problem. A retired Vallejo lieutenant who worked the case said much of the evidence was not packaged correctly by modern standards.
that it was packaged correctly for its time, and that a lot of it has deteriorated. It was collected for a world that had not invented the test. In 2018, Vallejo sent 2 letters to a private lab. A detective said the lab was confident it would get something. A profile was eventually obtained, and reportedly it belonged to someone who could not have been the killer. That last detail comes from a single source, and no agency has confirmed it.
April 2004. San Francisco police placed the Zodiac case inactive. The head of the homicide unit said it came down to caseload pressure and using resources efficiently. Inspectors were being pulled off old cases and reassigned to recent gang and drug homicides. 35 years of work filed away for arithmetic. Then on December 5th, 2020, the case's one real breakthrough arrived, and it came from nobody's police department. A software developer in the United States, a mathematician in Australia, a programmer in Belgium. They cracked the 340-character cipher that had held for 51 years, and the FBI independently verified the decryption. 3 volunteers on 3 continents solved what 4 agencies and the federal government could not. And the message was nothing. Taunting, boasting about the gas chamber. One of them told the New York Times it was more of the same material the killer liked to write. 2 of his ciphers have never been solved. Both are short. Most cryptographers believe there is not enough text in them to yield a reliable answer. The FBI's San Francisco office says the investigation remains open and unsolved. So do Vallejo, Napa County, Solano County, and the California Department of Justice. 5 agencies still holding files on a man nobody has ever named. David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Farron, Cecilia Shepard, Paul Stein. If you have information, every one of those agencies is still taking calls. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what you think about this story in the comments.